In an earlier life, I was a college professor. I often tell people that I'm a recovering academic. And I wasn't quite through with my graduate studies at Louisiana State University, but I took my first teaching post at Northern Kentucky University. And a young man in my first speech class made this statement. The year was 1990. Gay people deserve to die. Your response is fitting, it's moral, it's civil. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from this young man, and I went into shock. I was sitting in the back of the room, of course, grading the paper, and I was really grateful. We had a non-traditional student from New Jersey who found her way to Kentucky. And she was what, and this is a cultural reference for people who are of a certain age, but she was sort of a Murphy Brown character in that class, and I was so grateful. And as soon as he sat down, she said this, "Wow, that was awful. I can't believe you said that." I was so concerned about that young man because I wondered what was going on inside of him to be holding those kinds of attitudes toward part of God's creation. And I wondered, as we would all wonder, what's going on inside of him. And I thought, I'm an academic person, I'm not a counselor, and so I made a call to Ann at the counseling center. And I said, Ann, I'm new to the faculty here, and I want to know, I'm concerned about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender students. And I want to know how to create a safe place. There was no GSA, no safe place at all. We had a conversation, and I said, I want to be the faculty advisor. And she said, oh, Michael, this is Kentucky, and you're not tenured. And I said, oh, come on, Ann, there are 11,000 students on this campus. Probably, I don't know if we do the numbers, 10% plus faculty and staff. We're talking several thousand lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people. And certainly people who are questioning, people who are intersex, parents and friends. I mean, we can just imagine the diversity on this campus. And so sometimes optimism and naivete, and I would say providence, moves us into places where we didn't know where we were going. And so I started the group. I had a conversation with Ann later, and our faith came up. And she was a good Methodist. She did not invite me to her church. It was right across the street from the university. She already knew I was gay. She already knew the landscape. And so she said, but you know, Michael, I've heard about this church across the river over in Cincinnati. And you said you were Presbyterian, and I think you ought to try it out. Well, I'm a Southern boy, so I put on my coat and my tie. I had my Bible under my arm, and I went in, and I really did. I hadn't been in church for a while because I didn't have a whole lot of help in how to reconcile my sexuality and my faith. There was either silence or hostility in the religious landscape at that time, and the Presbyterian Church was still debating and voting and studying and debating and voting and studying and debating and voting and studying. But I walked in, took a breath. I imagine I'm not the only person in this room that wondered, is it going to be okay to walk into this church? And this is what was said. Welcome to a caring place where faith is informed by reason and reason is informed by faith. Welcome to a caring place where faith is informed by reason and reason is enlarged by faith. My first thought was, I don't have to unplug my brain to be here. And I can ask the important questions of life and faith here. And then the welcome statement went on and said, we affirm the good creation of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people along with heterosexuals. I had never heard such words. I had been baptized Presbyterian. I had been a part of a youth group. I had been nurtured by faith by the Presbyterian Church. I felt like in that moment I was coming home. And then I discovered a few years later, working as a volunteer with More Light, that there was a theological battle. And I was just finding where I could bring my head and my heart and my body together at the same time. And then I ended up at an assembly, and people who opposed the full inclusion of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people, had these buttons. And it said this: theology matters. Theology matters. But then you, the more like people in the 90s, had these great rainbow buttons, and this is what you said on these buttons: love matters. Love matters. I've thought about that a lot, even to this moment. When I think about what God, and what I think I understand about God, what I think I understand about Scripture, what I think I know and understand about what it means to be a faithful person in a faith community, in a Reformed denomination, is that love does trump theology. As important as theology is, why might I say that? One, what does Micah 6:8 say? To do justice, love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. And when questioned, what did Jesus say? In either Luke or Mark, in 2 Gospels, what's the most important commandment? That we're to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbors as ourselves.